Everybody, and welcome to the qualifying notebook. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, there he's good. Oh, he's gone. Oh, T-Bass, honestly. Hello, everyone. Now we've got all the time in the world. We tried to position ourselves to have a look at the pole man, Oscar Piastri. He's got, no, just gone. Good, right. Well, once we start, we don't stop. So, having failed just spectacularly to get a shot of Oscar Piastri, who we thought was going to go back to the motorhome.
He saw you coming.
Was he happy?
He was delighted, but not as delighted as his team boss, I think, or the rest of the team, because, you know, he's the one upholding honours, isn't he?
Well, yeah, they almost lost it to George Russell. Can you imagine in this weekend of all weekends where McLaren wanted to show their gratitude to Bahrain, not only for the party celebrating the Constructors' Championship in the end of 2004, but also, you know, for their continued support.
But you know what he did say to me?
What?
He pointed out two corners where there was even more lap time. So he could have been, in fact, he sounded a bit disappointed, turn 1, turn 13, so he could have been even further ahead.
Right, two questions for you, Karun. Firstly, with that kind of mistake from Lando, where he seemed to lose a tenth of a second in every lap, he can recover that, but he can only recover that to P2, I would suggest. Is this looking just like a kind of reset of the points Oscar lost in Australia and putting them level par for the championship potentially, or are we looking at Oscar, the man in form for the championship?
I think a bit of both, really, because you'd have to say, apart from that one corner where the rain came down in Australia, he has been the informed man. This is a very happy Charles Leclerc, who was 6/10 ahead of his teammate.
Okay.
I think Oscar is the form man. Anyway, I've interrupted your notebook.
No. I'm going to ask you the second question, which is, when Lewis Hamilton says that I'm just not quick on Saturdays anymore, is that something he can fix? Is that something Hamilton can work with as a driver? And you know about drivers when they get old. I'm not saying you're an old driver, but you know about that. Is that something he can work on with Ferrari, or is this just the aging process catching up with Lewis Hamilton over one lap? No comment about his racing. He's already shown that he can race and win.
When I heard his comments today, and he sounded completely like he was on the floor, if I closed my eyes, it was like watching him wear the Mercedes race.
He's back. He's back.
He's lost.
It's all right, T-Bass, come back here. It's okay. We're talking about Lewis.
Didn't it just sound like him last year? How many times last year did we hear him say, I can't qualify, I don't know how to I just closed my eyes and thought, is he in a Mercedes race suit again?
Well, I know.
It just felt like last year again. I don't know what's happened. But the answer is, with age, the thing that you lose is the ultimate speed in qualifying. But 6/10 to Leclerc?
There was obviously a mistake today, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was a lot.
Right.
Anyway, carry on with your notebook.
I haven't even introduced it so far. It's been so chaotic. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you very much, Karun. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the qualifying notebook from the 2025 Bahrain Grand Prix in what is a very, very busy paddock. And everybody is either after Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc or Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris. Everyone is excited. Bahrain is buzzing. I've never known a younger paddock. There are so many kids here. It's the holidays, obviously, the Easter holidays. We're here later than a bit usual, so we're in the middle of the Easter holidays. That's why all the kids and their parents, you know, are here and they're on holiday, so that's why they can come here. Obviously, the kids are all after an autograph or a selfie, and that's what they're trying to get as well. So yeah, it's been a very busy weekend, the second of a triple header. So there is Saudi to come and Jeddah next week. And yeah, as I said with Karun, it's all about McLaren wanting to deliver for their Bahraini co-owners and investors. That's what they want to do. It seems like Kimi Antonelli has a date, not the pasta, to the right, Petit-Bass. It seems that Kimi Antonelli has a date with Stefano Domenicali. Up there. He's gone in. So it looks like Stefano Domenicali wants to say well done to Kimi Antonelli, who had a very good qualifying today. But, you know, what is it with McLaren in terms of winning the race? And they're absolutely ready to do that, but Mercedes made it very difficult for them to start with. Right, let's do McLaren. I've given you the sort of scene. This is the official pasta now. He did enough of this on the F1 show, but it looks like no pasta is enough pasta for our colleagues on Sky Italy. And did you know, well, I'm not going to get, do you know what? I'm not going to get into the pasta facts. I've had enough of them for a weekend, but it does smell good. And apparently you can't make carbonara with anything other than spaghetti. I know, who knew? Right, McLaren, do you want to go and have a look at their motorhome? We might as well do it motorhome because you can see more people on there. Tom, come with this way. And it's P6 for Lando Norris and pole position for Oscar Piastri. Lando was P1 in Q1, Oscar Piastri was P1 in Q2, and then Oscar took the first blood after the first runs in Q3. Oscar saved McLaren's bacon, as we've already said with Karun, after Mercedes went 1-3. But oh no, Lando, only P6. He lost a tenth of a second in each sector and ended up just about 3-4 tenths actually off Oscar Piastri. They've they can control the race clearly from there tomorrow, and I think you saw Zach Brown just a minute ago. We'll hope that Lando Norris can come back to P2, but I would be amazed without the intervention of a safety car if Lando could beat Oscar tomorrow. But they've gone some way to clearing up what has been a race they haven't been able to win in the past, the Bahrain Grand Prix. Ferrari, let's do them next, even though it's Red Bull Racing. Go have a look at the back of their garage then, Ferrari. And to finish off what we're talking about, Lewis Hamilton, he was 9th today and 6 tenths off Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc, well done to him, P3, and Lewis was P2 in Q1 with Charles Leclerc P7. Lewis only had one run at the end of Q2, but that was enough, and that was fine. He had a lap deleted on run 1 in Q3, so he could only manage P9 and 6 tenths off Charles Leclerc at the end of Q3. So maybe you could argue if he had not had the lap deleted, he would have had 2 goes at it, but had a better feel for the car. He's not making excuses for himself. He apologized to the team. He said, "I'm really sorry, guys." I don't know whether he's blaming the floor. There is an upgraded floor. Lewis says the floor is helping. He's just saying that he's struggling at the moment in qualifying. But we've seen this from Hamilton, that when he has a deficiency in his game, he goes away and he works on it. So he will know now, all right, you've got to get Saudi out of the way. But then before, is that Oscar over there? There he is. We found him eventually, T-Bass. 180 degrees. There's the Australian. Well done. We got him eventually. He can go away and concentrate on his qualifying, and then having to do a social thing and selfies at the same time, and autograph. That's possible. Can you fix a little qualifying problem? I think you can, unless it's just age. And if it's just age, then maybe you can't. I don't know. But then the races are a different thing. Anyway, that's a discussion, I'm sure, which will run and run about Lewis's qualifying speed. Leclerc was saying one of the things he's really learned about Lewis Hamilton and admires is that immediately at the start of sessions, whether it's practice sessions or qualifying sessions, Lewis is immediately on it. And that's something that he feels is, he seems to have found an empty shack. He seems to feel that that's something that Charles Leclerc can learn from Lewis Hamilton, that immediately in a kind of Max Verstappen style, he's just on it straight away. And there is Lando. At least Lando can raise a smile after a difficult day. But yeah, Oscar talking to Zach Brown there. Oh, that's quite arty. You could get 2, if you went this way a bit, T-Bus, you could get 2 drivers in one shot. And we could use that in a kind of in a feature. Look, if you stand here, I've got 2. Oh no, he's going. Oh no, he's going. Oh, never mind. So yeah, that's Ferrari, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Right, Red Bull Racing. Terrible. Brakes are terrible. No brakes. No idea what happened there. And that's all he could do. P7 for Max Verstappen. Yuki Tsunoda, an improvement to P10. So well done, Yuki. That is a little bit better. Max, after a big setup change, the braking was completely different. So we'll wait to hear what happens tomorrow with all that. And Yuki did a quick lap. Had a lap deleted for track limits. So he had only one go at the end in Q1, but managed to do it. They were P9 and P10 in Q2 and into Q3. Max said the brake. This is so bad. The brakes are terrible. He tried all he could, but he could only do P7, and hoping for some better pace in the race tomorrow. But it's Max Verstappen, so he surely will manage that. But Yuki Tsunoda, a comfort, I think you could say, for him to be finally into Q3. 3 for the first time for Red Bull Racing, of course, but not the first time this year because he's been there for Toro Rosso. Right, Mercedes, we still don't know what is going on. There we go. You're early at 2. Let's photobomb that, T-Bass.
Look at you.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay. We still don't know, and I'll check the old electronic pigeon carrier to see if the stewards have made a decision about going out too early in a practice session. And I've got to say, it could be absolutely anything, because well, Mercedes are all the way down here, so maybe you can do the back of the garage. No, you can do, well, you might as well go to Mercedes, because going out too early in a practice session is pretty bad. So the summons says non-compliance with alleged breach of Article 12.2.1 of the International Sporting Code, and non-compliance with the race director's event notes, entering the fast lane of the pit lane before a restart time was confirmed. I've seen these kind of things given with a grid penalty. I really have. And actually, I would not be surprised at all if George Russell and Kimi Antonelli both get grid penalties, because the FIA don't like that kind of thing. There was a medical car having to go to the end of the pit lane. There were lots of drivers following the medical car, but the 2 Mercedes were already in front of it. I don't think the medical car had any problems getting its place at the end of the pit lane, but still, the other teams might have been in the pit lane, or other vehicles might have been in the working fast lane of the pit lane, because they knew that there wasn't a restart time, etc., etc., etc. Long story short, I don't think this is going to work out well for Mercedes. The more you think about it, the more I think there's going to be a grid penalty for George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, but hopefully it comes through before the end of the notebook, but I don't think it will. Reason, Ron Meadows, their sporting director, is not here this weekend. His son's getting married, so congratulations to him. But Andrew Shovlin and Matt Dean, that particular rule has obviously slipped through their fingers. So a bit of an oopsie from Shov and Matt, but I don't think there's any excuse. It seems to be just a mistake by those guys, but I fear for their grid positions, which would be a shame, because it's George Russell P2 and Kimi Antonelli, I'm going to do that, P4. Kimi Antonelli only had one chance in Q3 due to track limits. George Russell went P2, then improved. Kimi Antonelli went P4. He could have challenged for pole position, which would have been good, but in the end was only good enough for P4. But that's a great lap, and a great lap by George Russell, him and his cooling jacket. Right, we'll do very quickly Aston Martin, and then we will take a break. And Aston Martin, other way, have been quite open about what happened today, especially with Lance Stroll, who is 19th and second last. Mike Crack says, who's not the team boss anymore, but is responsible for the track, so he's not happy. We got things completely wrong with Lance's car today. The ride height setup was incorrect, which created high levels of understeer and cost him significant lap time and a chance to qualify higher up the grid. Fernando put in a solid performance on a used set of softs and will start from P13. We need to learn and reflect on this session and come back stronger tomorrow. Now, it's very kind of Aston Martin to issue that instant mea culpa from Mike Crack, but I'm just wondering whether they did it because that man, Lance Stroll, is particularly annoyed about it and wants everybody to know that it wasn't his fault, which is quite the right thing to do. There is Mike Crack on the left-hand side on the phone. So I don't know who he's talking to, but that's not the usual kind of standard of engineering at Aston Martin, so something must have gone something wrong somewhere to get the ride height wrong. So hopefully they can pull the car out of Parc Fermé and start from the pit lane tomorrow with the right setup. But it's 14th, car 14 is 14th on the grid, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll 19th. And as far as Alonso, he got into Q2, but could do no more than 14th. Not particularly quick, but we maximised everything we had. And you've already heard what happened to Lance Stroll. Right, let us take a break. Are you just going to linger on a shot of Aston Martin? No? What am I going to tell you? What kind of teaser can we go to the break with? Well, let's find out about the star of the day after the break, Pierre Gasly in an unfancied Alpine around Bahrain, and why it's a very particularly happy birthday present to the boss. More Notebook in a bit. Hello, Hello everybody and welcome back to a rather more serious notebook for the 2025 qualifying session from the Bahrain Grand Prix. Sorry about part one, it was all a bit chaotic, but yeah, we're going to take things a little more seriously now once we're looking for drivers and looking for Karun and everything like that, but you know, let's just round up everybody else's qualifying. And well done to the star of qualifying for me today, Pierre Gasly, on Flavio Briatore's 75th birthday. And if I'm honest, I thought Flav was older. The amount of time he's been around in Formula One. Of course, coming into the sport in the early 90s with the Benetton family. To run the Benetton team, but happy 75 years young, Flavio Briatore. And he told Pierre Gasly to absolutely go for it and press the right pedal, Pierre said on the radio. He understood the assignment, and that's not the only thing he understood. He understood how to warm up the tyre absolutely perfectly, and that meant that Pierre Gasly was rewarded with nice hot tyres on a cooling track in Q3, and voila! The result is P5 on the grid, an amazing lap. And not bad for Jack Doohan either. Jack Doohan was P5 in Q1. Gasly was P3 actually in Q2. Then, of course, P5 in Q3. But, yeah, Jack Doohan finished a few tenths of a second off getting into Q3, which would have been for the first time in his career. So, pretty good. The Alpine working pretty well around here. We did see that in the test, so maybe it's no surprise. But, yeah, they can convert that into some much-needed points. They can just need some points. Tomorrow, they've still not got any points. So Oliver Oakes, the team boss there, on the left-hand side, talking to Jock Clear about somewhat or other. And they hopefully, for their sake, they can get some points tomorrow. And it looks like Haas F1 with Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon are very far away from points because they've had an absolute shocker today. One guy last and the other guy in the wall. But weirdly, with Nico Hülkenberg's delayed demotion for track limits, the guy who ended up in the wall is 14th on the grid and not 15th. But a nightmare under the lights. Ocon had a big crash on his first run in Q2. He got wide on the exit of T3 and it unsettled the car and spat him into the outside barrier, took the back off the car. And then Ollie Behrman, difficult to understand exactly why he had no pace, but he'd had better pace for the rest of the weekend, but ended up 20th and last. So that is not the pace that they showed. Well, actually, it is the pace they showed in testing, because they didn't do any qualifying practice in testing. They only did race runs. So they were pretty much last of all of the runners every day in the 3 days of testing when we were here in February. So actually, that is exactly where they were in testing, but they shouldn't be there because they are quicker than that, obviously, for Haas F1. Racing Bulls. Isaac Hadjar, pretty good, 12th, and Liam Lawson continues to struggle in P17. Isaac was P10 in Q1 and into Q2. It was all very tight, they said, and some days, in fact, the last 2 race weekends, they've been getting it right and on the right side of a few tenths of a second, and sometimes they weren't. And today was one of those weekends where they really weren't on the right side of a few tenths of a second. And the result was that instead of being into Q3, best Isaac Hadjar could do was 12th. It was half a tenth. That was all that would have put Isaac Hadjar into Q3. Liam Lawson out in Q1 again, but not his fault, potentially, because there was some kind of gremlin with the DRS system, the drag reduction system, the movable rear wing. In fact, it wasn't a gremlin. I think they understand exactly what happened. He pressed the button, it opened, but there was some lift somewhere. And because there was a lift, the way they described it was that the lift sent the system into passive mode, and that automatically shut the rear wing flap and didn't dump the drag on the straight, and that's why Liam was 17th. So maybe it went over a bump and his foot twitched or something happened, but it registered a lift. Maybe it registered erroneously and there was no lift. But anyway, that's why it closed, said the team on the radio. And yeah, Liam will not be happy. But tomorrow is another day, and hopefully they can recover something. And it's a kind of similar story at Williams today, because they got on the wrong end of a little late decision from the FIA. So while their engine supplier Mercedes might get on the wrong end of a steward's decision as far as they're concerned with maybe a grid demotion, we still don't have that, by the way, and in fact they've only just gone to see the stewards, so that's going to be some arguments in there. It's probably going to take 15-20 minutes, then the stewards are going to deliberate, so it's going to be probably another hour before we get the stewards' results. So check skysports.com/F1 for your news and all the Sky F1 social channels for what's happened to Mercedes and whether it is or is not a grid demotion. But the FIA stewards, or whoever it is who governs track limits and looks after these kind of things, didn't notice that Nico Hülkenberg went over track limits until sometime into Q2, by which time Nico was already competing in very happily in Q2 and thought he was going to qualify 13th. But Alex Albon, who'd been kicked out in Q1, was getting out of his race suit and changing into his trousers or his shorts. And they felt it was particularly unfortunate because it was Williams' mistake in getting Albon into traffic that meant that his outlap was compromised and he didn't get the best out of his tyres in Q1. Felt that Alex Albon should and could, especially given that Carlos Sainz was 8th on the grid today, been at least in Q2 and then probably in Q3. So there is an injustice here today, but them's the way these things goes. That's the rub, as the Bard said, and yeah, there's not much they can do about it now, unfortunately for Alsatian Williams Racing. But yeah, as for Carlos Sainz, a lot of traffic, but into Q2, P7, and then into Q3, P8 with an absolutely great lap, a 30.6 ahead of Lewis Hamilton in Carlos's old Ferrari. And I'll say that again in case you missed it. That's Carlos Sainz qualifying ahead of Lewis Hamilton in his old Ferrari. And Carlos will be happy about that. And finally, we have Sauber, and was going to be P13 for Nico Hülkenberg, but it's turned out to be P16 after his lap was deleted. And then it was Gabriel Bortoleto, P18. And the last lap put Hülkenberg into Q2, 0.2 of a second ahead of Fernando Alonso. And they said at the time, we'll take that over, we'll take that result, P13, over 14. Because, of course, at the time, Esteban Ocon was 15th. Yes, we will, said Hülkenberg's engineer. So nice job. But Gabriel Bortoleto struggled, really, and has ended up P18, 0.2 of a second off getting into Q2. Right, that is pretty much it. So join us for the Bahrain Grand Prix tomorrow. Very interesting to see what's going to happen, because we have Oscar Piastri and George Russell on the front row with Lando Norris 6th. But if I know anything about tyre degradation around here, especially what we saw in testing, then there are going to be lots of drivers moving up and down. So this is kind of one of the less important qualifying sessions of the season. We don't yet know what's going to happen to Williams. Hopefully it will just be a team reprimand and a colossal fine, but at the moment we don't really have any more than that as we are going off air live here. So as I say, check the channels and we'll see you for the Bahrain Grand Prix tomorrow. Thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.
Sky Sports F1.